of people is really starting to say Dawn Staley really ain't developing players. She's just landing the best players in the country and just sending them on their way.
The Indiana Fever having to make some cuts, and those cuts are happening right now as we speak.
I didn't think that was going to cut one of Dawn Staley players because, quite frankly, players from South Carolina really don't be getting cut like that. He was highly praised by head coach Dawn Staley at South Carolina as the WNBA team announced this departure today, bruh.
Bree Hall is the fakest defender. That's what critics are saying after the Indiana Fever waived her, completely contradicting Dawn Staley, who called Hall an elite defender just months ago.
It called her an elite defender. Now, if she was so elite, why would the Indiana Fever have to let her go?
The basketball world is shocked by this move, with fans and analysts divided on whether Staley oversold her player or if Hall wasn't given a fair chance. The timing of this waiver has raised serious questions about Staley's credibility as a talent evaluator. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Did Dawn Staley really go too far in praising her own player? The basketball world is absolutely stunned right now after what just happened to Bree Hall. Imagine this. A coach calls you an elite defender throughout your entire college career, and then boom, you're cut from your pro team almost immediately.
The Indiana Fever let it be known that they will be parting ways with Dawn Staley, South Carolina Gamecocks, Bree Hall. The Indiana Fever released an elite defender.
That's exactly what happened to Hall, and now everyone's questioning Staley's judgment. Let's go back to where it all began. Bree Hall was a standout player at South Carolina under legendary coach Dawn Staley. During those college years, Staley didn't just occasionally mention Hall's defense. She constantly hyped her up as this defensive powerhouse. Every press conference, every interview, Staley would talk about Hall's defensive skills like she was the next coming of a defensive legend. Elite defender became basically attached to Hall's name thanks to Staley's repeated praise.
It's like, yo, then I'm really scrolling and niggas really like surprised she got cut. Like, what?
After a solid college career with the Gamecocks, Hall got drafted by the Indiana Fever. Everyone thought this was the start of something big for her. She signed her rookie contract, got her jersey, did all the photo shoots, the whole thing. And then, just like that, she was gone. The Fever waived her almost instantly. Can you imagine going from signing your first pro contract to getting cut that fast?
He was highly praised by head coach Dawn Staley at South Carolina as the WNBA team announced this departure today, bruh.
The contrast between Staley's enormous praise and the Fever's quick decision to let her go couldn't be more shocking. So what happened? Why would the Fever make this move? Looking at their roster, they've been making several changes, trying to build the perfect team around their superstar Caitlin Clark. Maybe Hall just didn't fit into their plans. Or maybe, and this is what many people are suggesting, her performance during training camp revealed something the Fever's coaching staff couldn't ignore. What if Hall's defensive skills that looked so good in college just weren't translating to the pro level? The reactions from basketball analysts were brutal. One commentator straight up said, Bree Hall is the fakest defender. The one thing everybody says she can do well, she can't do well. That's harsh. Social media exploded with similar takes.
In this entire league, the amount of PR these South Carolina players be getting, bro. Like, Bree Hall is the fakest defender.
With fans and analysts alike questioning if Staley had been wearing rose-colored glasses when evaluating Hall's abilities. When you look at some of Hall's game footage, you start to see why there might be this disconnect. In games against tougher opponents, Hall sometimes struggled to stay in front of faster guards. Her footwork occasionally looked stiff, and her defensive awareness wasn't always there in critical moments. These weren't one-off bad plays. They were patterns that showed up repeatedly, despite Staley's continued praise of her defensive abilities. You know what's crazy? WNBA rookies face so much pressure already. The league only has 12 teams with limited roster spots. Getting waived this quickly has to be devastating for Hall's confidence.
Best of luck to you, Bree. You're a good player. I know you will land in the right place.
I am not going to sit here and hold my tongue I am telling the truth about every single player.
Most players at least get through a full preseason before teams make these kinds of decisions. Now Hall has to somehow pick herself up, possibly try to catch on with another team, or maybe even look at playing overseas to prove herself.
People in the media is picking up, and oh man, they digging up stories from Don Staley calling Bree Hall an elite defender.
Her entire career trajectory just took a major detour before it even really started. This whole situation makes you wonder about Staley's credibility as a talent evaluator. Is this just a one-time miss, or is there a pattern here? Some critics are starting to question if Staley consistently overrates her South Carolina players.
A lot of people is really starting to say Don Staley really ain't developing players. She's just landing the best players in the country and just sending them on their way.
The praise she gives them might help them get drafted higher, but when they face the harsh reality of professional basketball, does that praise actually set them up for failure? If Hall can't find success elsewhere, it's going to raise even more questions about Staley's ability to accurately assess pro-level talent. The truth is, there's often a huge gap between college basketball and the WNBA. The speed is different, the physicality is different, the skill level is dramatically higher. Hall might have been a solid defender against college competition, but the WNBA is filled with the absolute best players in the world. What works in college doesn't always translate, and maybe that's what happened here. Staley might have genuinely believed Hall was an elite defender based on what she saw in practice and games at South Carolina, but the Fever clearly saw something different.
The Indiana Fever having to make some cuts, and those cuts are happening right now as we speak.
Will be cutting South Carolina players. Well, I'm here to tell you it happened. Now, y'all can't go be pulling a race car, bro. Let's get back to the audio.
This situation might actually tell us more about Staley's coaching approach than Hall's abilities. Does Staley focus too much on building her players' confidence with high praise rather than preparing them for the brutal reality of professional basketball? While supporting your players is important, there's a fine line between encouragement and creating unrealistic expectations. Maybe Staley crossed that line with Hall, and now both of them are dealing with the consequences. The truth is, this situation puts both Hall and Staley at a serious crossroads right now. Hall needs to find another team fast, while Staley has to deal with all these questions about her ability to judge talent. It's that simple.
Overall, by the way, I do think Bree Hall will get snatched up by somebody, all right? I do believe that.
I didn't think that was going to cut one of Don Staley's players because, quite frankly, players from South Carolina really don't be getting cut like that.
Will Hall bounce back and prove she actually belongs in the WNBA? Or was this waiver just confirming what critics have been saying all along about her defense? The entire basketball world is watching to see what happens next. Can Staley's so-called elite defender shock everyone and prove the doubters wrong?
Get up out of here, dog. Indiana Fever cut elite defender loved by Don Staley.
Or is this just another sad case of college hype not matching up with pro reality?